Hi and welcome to a weekly outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 12th of November. So looking at the euro dollar, and what we're seeing from a weekly perspective, last week was very much a game of two halves up until about Wednesday midish day. It was pushing up strong. I was wondering if we'd see a swing from there and maybe a more of a correction, but it fouled into the weekly 8 roundabouts. It pulled back. The Fed meeting went pretty much as planned and suggested further strength for the US dollar. So this is what we're seeing as a consequence. Seeing a run through of that, plus of course there's the Brexit negotiations still to happen, so it effectively leaves the US dollar as kingpin for now at least. So we're seeing a continuation of this move down. Where to next? We could be running towards that 112 area. I'm going to come down to look at things a bit more in terms of the pivots, and on the daily scale here we've got lower highs, lower lows. Now that was that Wednesday we saw the push up on, and it looked like it was going to close up and start giving us maybe more of a bullish stance there, but never managed to do so. It did put a temporary higher low in there and still had the potential on the Thursday, but the FOMC really finished that off, and as I said, we saw a run through on Friday. In terms of support areas now, the support areas, we've got that 112.03 area there, the S1 on the weekly pivot. So these are the sort of points, if I can't see anything technically on the horizon, these are the sort of areas I'd be looking for in terms of support. 112.03 actually, it's sitting there, which it's around about the 112 area, key number. If it was to break through that, well then 110.90, somewhere in that region. So possible support areas. One thing to bear in mind, we've got the weekly pivot above. I wouldn't be totally shocked if we did see any rallies. It runs into that sort of area, so that would be a target if I was to be seeing a rally start taking place. That isn't to say it will continue and break through here. It may be an exhaustive part. I mean, we've had 5 waves. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll be counting the 5th wave here in this move. Maybe it needs to get down to that 112 area. We'll see, but it does look weak at the moment, so erring on the weaker side. The pound saw a gap open in terms of it appears there's some more cabinet ministers of the government looking like they may resign, and then we're seeing all sorts of things. And this afternoon we're just seeing that sort of I don't know if they're trying to help things or not, but Barnier's just been speaking and has put news alert out that there may be some positive news out yet. Well, we'll see. But for now, the pound, it's got this gap in between, which is often a draw. It may become a draw, particularly on anything good. You've got the weekly pivot above, so it could pitch up towards that. But if it gets there, we've still got lots of voting to go on through, and I think this could still be a choppy period for the pound, with all these risk which could whipsaw either way. Okay, dollar yen. It's, as I've been saying for quite a few weeks now, it still looks like it's got bullish potential. Yes, we've had a couple of weeks where it's been pushing south, but all in all, the dollar is, as I say, kingpin at the moment. Where to? Well, I was looking at this earlier on. It looks like, well, daily, monthly, even R1 is possible. We have got the weekly pivot just below, and we're seeing a sort of a bit of a reversal at the moment with some of these currencies. Just maybe the dollar softening a little bit, we'll see. But for now, at least, that could be a target towards that weekly pivot, which is not far away, not big enough to trade, but it may just be a draw. But really looking in the bigger picture, still upside for the dollar yen. Aussie dollar, well, we've sort of turned, and there's this sort of undecided point here on the weeklies for me. It had a bit of divergence at the lows there. It's pushed through. It's broken this sort of key trend line that was running down this point here, and it's closed above it. It's iffy at the moment. That shooting star on the weeklies, it doesn't look particularly great. The daily is slightly different, and it's sort of hanging in there at the moment. And of the pairings, the Aussie seems to have done the best and held on to the best, although up until now it's been hammered. So we'll see if it can hold on here. Possible target areas during the week as we move forward. Well, it could run up to its weekly R2 there as a possible on the upside. It's sort of not too far away from previous highs there and previous lows to the left there, so it could become a pivotal area around that 73.30 area, 28 area possibly. To the downside, well, it could come all the way back down towards its weekly pivot. It has got potential support from these key moving averages here, but they're pretty flat at the moment and may not offer too much. So if we see all things sold, well, back to the weekly, maybe back to these prior lows. Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar next. So looking at the Canadian dollar weekly picture, as we've been talking about for a long time, it's finally closed above that expanding wedge sort of pattern that was sitting there. Potential to run up to the prior highs there, maybe even more, maybe even get a one-to-one movement from that pushing up. We'll see. We'll see, as I say, see how it runs through. For now, to me, it looks bullish. However, of course, oil could, the fluctuations in oil price and the discussions there could be the key shifter in this for now. Okay, daily point of view, well, with higher lows, it's, as I said, it's still looking potential for the upside. New Zealand dollar. New Zealand dollar's had a decent turn here. It's pushed through again. It's broken what was a trend line there last week and closed above it. We've seen some follow on, and we're seeing yet again some more follow on. Maybe where the money's going at the moment. If certainly higher lows coming through here, and potentially yet another one. It's pitched back to the weekly pivot. Tick that box. Maybe find some resistance into the R3, or if it breaks through that, back in towards that daily 200. But for now, it's outclassing most of the other major pairs against the dollar. So there we are. Okay, that's pretty much that. Now I will have a quick look at the S&Ps. S&P's interesting point here, ran into its weekly 8 and 21, back into the 21 and 8 there last week. We're seeing a bit of a reaction from that so far. Of course, we've got a slow old day with Veterans Day today, but we could see a bit more continuation to the downside of this important point. I haven't put any Fibonacci lines on there, but I know some people, when you start getting a high and low sort of stuck in here, they'll be looking to see what sort of retracement we've got there. Pretty close onto a 61.8. So there you go. I thought I'd throw that in there, get a bit of fibs in for a couple of our regular clients there that like a bit of fib. There we go. So 61.8 is reacted off that, combined with that weekly 8. So we've got all that combination. Could sell off some more. It's a key point really, and I would be looking at sticking a trend line across if I can get a couple of decent points, but I may need to come back. But in fact, we may have even broken. Whoops, I've just drawn that very badly, but yeah, we've already sort of broken that, and it's below that sort of that sharper trend line. It'd be interesting, as I said, to see how it reacts and closes today, whether we get a bit of an up pitch, an up kicker. But if it continues breaking down, well, previous body low seems to be a 26.42 and maybe more. Right, that's pretty much it from that point of view. Let's have a quick look at the fundamentals, pull it all together now in terms of looking at where we're going. So looking at the euro dollar, important factor here following the previous last week's FOMC meeting, it's the December expectation of an increase has gone back up to 75% chance. So that's given the bullish tone. So bullish tone there to the US dollar. Euro overall, not a lot of change in terms of positioning. I'm just looking at the asset positioning. It's the longs a bit slower there, still erring negative-ish, but they are still long, the asset managers. The short positions reduced a little bit there, so we'll see how that goes. Technically, still bearish. Level to downward, I would suggest, in terms of what we will be seeing, but certainly the trend there is certainly weakness kicking around. We just need to see where this fifth wave comes to. The pound shorts reduced to 67% here. In terms of the hedge fund traders, they increased slightly, but it's a coin throw here. This week we've got employment out on the 13th, inflation on the 14th, and retail sales on the 15th. Similar 14th to 15th for the US there, by the way, just to watch out for. The risks and the trends at the moment are to the downside. We could easily see switchbacks if there was any Brexit agreement. Also, we could see some nasty kicks to the downside yet. Dollar yen still remains weak. There was some weaker data out this morning or over the weekend. I can't remember exactly when it was out, but it's been out. I saw some weaker data mentioned. Short positions, it's still short predominantly, 61%. It's reduced slightly there, the shorts, and again the hedge funds have actually increased their short positions up to 74% there. The whole risk with the yen, of course, has been risk flows in the past. This week we've got the prelim GDP coming out on the 13th, so then Wednesday, to watch out for. So trend really remains there. As I say, sorry, going back to cable, it could be anyway, so it's a zigzag for that one. Aussie dollar, at the moment it's well, shorts slightly reduced, and the hedge fund shorts pretty flat there, so slight positivity coming through, maybe through the figures. We'll just have to see how this comes. Weekly is still, in terms of the technical trend, is flattish or iffy, should I say, not confirmed, but the dailies, we are sort of still in that upward trend there, but it could roll. Canadian dollar, not a lot to say there apart from the well, the sentiment. The longs have reduced slightly down to 57. The shorts have gone up a little bit. Reduced as well. Sorry, I beg your pardon. So we'll see how this runs, but it's an evenish play on in terms of sentiment there. The risk here is, of course, with the oil price at the moment, but at the moment it still looks like on the bigger picture we could be pushing up further up unless oil really gains some traction in price. New Zealand dollar, again, this one, it's erring still to the more bullish side generally. I've only got to say that short positions reducing, and from the asset funds, the hedge funds flattening out a little bit here. So maybe taking the foot off the gas a little bit here. It could still spring up even further, so it still remains erring on the bullish side there. The S&Ps, we've looked at that. We're at crossroads on the weekly trend lines. It's pushed into that 8 moving average on the weeklies. It could be rolling back over from this. The short-term trend is still to that upside, but could there's a big question mark sitting around that where it's at the moment. Long positions increased marginally from the asset fund managers there, and the short positions also reduced slightly from the hedge funds here. That was mainly, by the looks of it, that was made, I say short positions, but this is a net position. What actually happened was a lot of long positions were closed last Tuesday, so I do wonder, by taking those longs off, I wonder whether we're actually seeing profit taking from those guys. So we'll see. Right, that's pretty much it for me. I will end it here. Have a great week. Bye for now.